From the Palace at Uncle's Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of WorkCom Matters, the central location for all your workers' compensation, employment, and labor law matters. My name is Steve Appel, and I'll be your host for the next hour with some talk news and hopefully some answers about WorkCom Matters. Thanks for being part of the show, and if you can break away from your WorkCom Matters, feel free to give us a call and clue us in with your questions, comments, and or concerns. The phone number worldwide, 818-357-4120. You can send an email to wcexaminer@aol.com. You can even be old school. Send a fax to 818-475-1437. With me in studio, my right-hand man, Mike Zyma, my protege, attorney Robert Ozeron. Scott Walton's on the board. Daniel Brin is a special guest in studio. And back at WorkCom Central, making sure the whole damn thing goes right, is Jake Paris. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition, a special edition of Work Comp Matters. We've got one of the candidates for the Democratic 45th Assembly District in studio, Mr. Daniel Brin, and we're going to be talking to him about his life and career, why he's running, why he may or may not be the best candidate for the 45th Assembly District, which, of course, I live and work in. But before we get to Daniel, I want to talk about, in my opinion, the number one story of the week, potentially the number one story of the year, and I just got this today. Not since the early days of anti-Obama fever in 2009 have we seen the white right fly into a kind of panic that, quote, can't we just stop having people be shot at all the time, close quote, movement has induced. But there's a big, big difference. That earlier backlash produced the Tea Party, which fueled the Republican Revolution of the 2010 midterms and ultimately made possible the previously unthinkable prospect of a President Donald Trump. This time, just the opposite is happening. The white right is spooked, massively spooked, by the now real specter of hordes of young, multi-ethnic liberals who know how to organize and frame a message better than the Democratic Party ever has, who know how to yield social media better than inflowers, and who have absolutely no interest in the layers of propaganda BS that have accumulated around the gun debate for decades, and they have no earthly idea how to shut them up. Folks, that's from Rolling Stone magazine. I just got that today, and of course, that has to do with March for Our Lives. I've been talking about March for Our Lives ever since that occurred this Saturday, and I want to quote from their mission statement on their website. Not one more. We cannot allow one more child to be shot at school. We cannot allow one more teacher to make a choice to jump in front of an assault rifle to save the lives of students. We cannot allow one more family to wait for a call or text that never comes. Our children and teachers are dying. We must make it our top priority to save these lives. This is not just schools, though. This is churches, nightclubs, concerts, movie theaters, airports, and more. A child should not fear a bullet on their walk home. We may be children, but we are not fighting for just children. All lives are precious, and our country must make the safety of its citizens a number one priority. March for Lives is created by, inspired by, and led by students of all ethnicities, religions, and sexualities across the country. We will no longer sit and wait for someone else to take action to stop the epidemic of mass shootings. The mission and focus of March for Our Lives is to assure that no special interest group or political agenda is more critical than timely passage of legislation to effectively address the gun violence issues that are rampant in our country. We demand morally just leaders to rise up from both parties in order to ensure public safety. Specifically, we are working towards 1. Universal comprehensive background checks. 2. Bringing the ATF into the 21st century with a digitized, searchable database. 3. Funds for the Center for Disease Control to research the gun violence epidemic in America. 4. High-capacity magazine ban. 5. Assault weapons ban. We came together on March 24th, and through continued unity, we will save lives. We will not stop our advocacy until we see the change we demand, a change that is necessary in order to save innocent lives across our nation. This past Saturday, I was on my computer, I was watching TV, I was listening to the radio, and I was absolutely fascinated. It was so encouraging to see that these children, these kids, were doing things that adults have been unable to do for years. And by the way, folks, when I saw this happening on Saturday, I posted on my Facebook, "This is awesome. This is fantastic." And some people agreed with me, but a lot of people said, "Oh, Steve, you don't know what you're talking about. These kids are being
manipulated?"
Thank you. These kids are being manipulated by the liberal left. These kids are puppets. These kids don't know what they're doing. I got news for you, folks, my friends. These kids know exactly what they're doing, and the message is clear. The message is not to change the Second Amendment. The message is not to take guns out of people's hands. The message is that children are being killed and something has to be done. We've waited for our representatives. We've waited for our parents. We've waited for our adults. We've waited for everybody else to do something, and nobody is doing anything. Therefore, we are going to take charge, and we are going to do it for ourselves. And by the way, no violence occurred. No windows were broken. No rocks were thrown. Hundreds, 540, 440 marches took place around the world within the United States, and no one got hurt. I did not hear one report of anybody getting hurt. Now, actually, pardon me, no, not a single report of anybody getting hurt. Folks, this should be a lesson to us adults. The children, the ones that took part, they were born into this social media age. This is why I've said that the Tea Party, I'm a rhino. I'm a Republican in name only. Our guest here, who we're going to get to very shortly after the next break, Daniel Brin, is, my assumption, is a liberal Democrat running for office. And by the way, I'm endorsing him for office, and if any of his competitors want to come on the show, yeah, I know this is the first time I've told Daniel. No, I know, and we'll believe me, we're going to get to Daniel later on in the show.
I'll take it.
I'm not going to be grilling him, but I'm going to be talking to him about all the topics involving California where combat matters. Trust me, folks, but believe me, I am on such a natural high that all of us adults should take a moment and see what these kids have done and use them as our example, as that you can throw millions, if not billions of dollars at a problem and not get anything done. But if you know how to mobilize, if you know how to organize, you can get stuff done very inexpensively. Now, yes, it's true. There are confirmed reports that George Clooney and Oprah Winfrey helped finance, along with other people financing. But a lot of these kids ran their own GoFundMe pages. $10, $20, $50, $100. Some of them got $1,000. And what I also find shameful, any of you adults, or anybody for that matter, that are picking on these individual kids because maybe what they're saying individually, you are not addressing the message. The message is not to take our guns away. The message is not to change the Second Amendment. The message is not to disarm. The message is that children are being killed and nothing is being done about it. And these kids want something done about it. And I totally agree, and I totally support it. And I was speaking to Mike a couple of days ago, and I was telling Mike how I felt and what we can do. And Mike said it so succinctly, how do we feel? And I'm going to do it right now. I'm putting my fist in the air. Mike, questions, comments, or concerns?
Well, that's the way I felt when I saw these kids, and I saw them carrying it out with aplomb, if you will. They seemed to be right on message, and I found my fist going in the air. Frankly, I'm not an NRA hater. I'm a gun rights advocate, but I'm sick of all the NRA what do you
propaganda?
Well, I know it's propaganda cliches that come out. You know, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. However, the good guy with a gun in that Florida shooting took up a defensive posture. What happened there, NRA? I'm just sick of their cliches, and I'm not an NRA hater by any means.
Robert, questions, comments, or concerns?
I think I'm going to be an outlier on this group because maybe I'm a bit younger, and it seems that I'm going to have a more conservative viewpoint on this one than the rest of you. And I appreciate your viewpoint. I understand that people want something to be done, right? Anytime that someone gets killed, there's a murder, people want results. They want to fix it. I don't know how more government will do that. There were so many breakdowns in government to have this incident occur, and for some reason you think taking away the rights of individuals and trusting the government more is somehow going to fix your problem. It's not, okay? And I think these kids already got this clear backpack, right? They got more government, and now they don't like it, right? So I humbly disagree with all of you. I don't think these kids know what the hell they're talking about. I think they're reacting, not responding, right? An adult responds. A child reacts, okay? We need to respond before we think about changing something as important as the Second Amendment.
Well, I totally agree, but I don't think that's what they're asking for. And I suspect Daniel wants to comment, and the rest of the show, he's our guest. He's going to come in after our first musical break. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Where Comp Matters. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more California workers' compensation attorneys than any other system within the Kuiper Belt, give me a call, 818-357-4120. For your no strings attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want your concerts, sports, theater tickets, hard to get, sold out, folks, even front row, give our buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. We're going to be back with more news, more question, hopefully some answers, and our special guest, Daniel Brin, Democratic candidate for the 45th Assembly District, after our first musical break.
How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? Now that you know who you are, what do you want to be? And have you traveled very far, far as the eye can see? Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? How often have you been there? Often enough to know. What did you see when you were there? Nothing that doesn't show. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do.
My name is Steve Appel, and we're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. Give us a call at 818-357-4120. And if you want your hard-to-get front-row sold-out concert, sports, theater tickets, give our buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. We've got our special guest in studio tonight, Mr. Daniel Brin. He was first elected to the West Hills Neighborhood Council Board of Directors in 2003. He served as its president since 2012. In addition, he serves on the West Hills Beautification Committee, Ad Hoc Community Senior Center Committee, Communications Committee, Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness Committee, Streets and Transportation Committee, Zoning and Planning Committee. Daniel also chairs the nonprofit Foundation for Arts and Community Events, and he chairs the nonprofit Harry Bridges Project and is active in the Thomas Paine Society in Pasadena. He grew up on the west side of Los Angeles, went to Brandeis University and the Graduate School of Journalism at Berkeley. He began his professional career on the police beat for the legendary City News Bureau of Chicago before joining the Heritage newspapers, which served Jewish communities in many regions of California and Nevada. For 25 years, he was an editor and then editor-in-chief of Heritage Papers. He then became managing editor and senior writer for the magazines and newspapers endorsing labor unions and health plan trust funds. Daniel is the founder and administrator of the 13,500-member West Hills, California Facebook page, where I met him. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Daniel Brin.
Thank you very much, Steve.
It is my pleasure. I am so glad to have you here. I've wanted to have you here for quite a while, and I remember the first time a couple of months ago I asked you, and you said you weren't sure if me or my audience were going to want to listen to you or whatever, because you figured that we were potentially on opposite sides of the spectrum, you being a Democrat, me being a rhino, you being liberal, me being middle-of-the-road conservative. But the one thing I told you is because I am a rhino, and like Robert has said many times on the show, I do my best to pick issues and not not necessarily.
It'll surprise you.
Take platform.
All around the table, right?
Yeah,
It'll surprise you.
I have said many times that when it comes to social issues, I'm probably as liberal as it gets. Hence my start of the show. I'm 15 minutes on the March for Our Lives because I absolutely love it. But when it comes to financial issues and taxes and such, I'm very conservative. So I spent a lot of time talking about March for Our Lives. Did you want to give a brief comment on that? And then I have a whole slew of questions for you.
Okay. Well, I'm an admirer of this coming generation. I think it's has potential of being the greatest generation in the history of humanity. I think they have a bad rap. People talk about Tide Pods and make fun of kids and say that they are not able to make sophisticated decisions for themselves. Well, I've worked with young people at our neighborhood council level. I've spoken with young people at CSUN and Pierce College, and I know differently. I think they are strong, independent thinkers. If you look at the statistics for risky behavior from the Centers for Disease Control, you'll see that pregnancies are at teen pregnancies are at historic lows. You'll find drug use is down, except for marijuana, which is staying stable,
and vaping, which is not considered a drug, but they're finding out more and more.
Yeah. You'll find violent behavior way down. You'll find fights, physical altercations among young people way down. You'll find that this is a serious generation that they want to find solutions to the problems of their lives. And they've taken a bad hit. They're coming off of this terrible recession. The older millennials have suffered a great emotional hit, and I admire them for the way they're coming back and fighting for themselves.
You bring up an excellent point, millennials. Okay, the generation that we saw this past weekend on March for Our Lives are not the millennials. They are the next generation, and we should not confuse the two, right?
That's correct. That's correct. This younger generation, I don't know what we're going to call them, Generation Z, I've heard. Yeah. I have great faith in them, just as I've had great faith in their older brothers and sisters.
I hate to put a title on them or quote rag on them, but our generation, my generation, and people that I've spoken to, believes that millennials have a tendency to have a sense of entitlement. They don't want to work for it, and they want everything given to them. This March for Our Lives, I don't see them that way. I see them wanting to work for what they want.
No, I totally agree with you.
And that brings me to my first topic, and we're going to be, I sent you the topics in advance. I asked you if there was anything you wanted to or you didn't want to talk about. You were free rein, Steve. Yeah. Just have at it. So, of course, the first topic is the homeless. The homeless in California and nationwide, the problem has been getting worse, not better. I think a poll that was recently just taken shows that there's about 100,000 plus homeless in California, and over half of them are in Southern California. And of course, we had the issues with the Orange County, Santa Ana wash or the riverbed.
Still going on.
It's still going on, where they're close to the end of their 30 days in hotels. Do you know anything about what's going to happen to this homeless people when that 30 days runs out? And what's on your platform for the homeless?
I don't think that they're going to be kicked out of the motels and sent out in the streets. I think that's politically untenable. So regardless of what the supervisors in Orange County say, the city councils say, they're going to have to continue the program until they find some solution to keep these people with roofs over their heads. on the neighborhood council level, I'm pretty much on the fighting lines between not my backyard and wanting to do something. My natural impulse is to find solutions to social problems.
Yeah, I see on our Facebook site all the time, there is an RV parked outside my house. There are strange-looking people walking around, and we see that all the time. You know, we had a news story last week, and we've got a news story this week, if we have time to get it on the show. Sorry about that. Apparently, there's $2.5 billion that's just sitting in the fund in the California budget that's earmarked for mental illness. And of course, we know that most of the men that are homeless are either there because of mental illness and or drug abuse. Most women are there because of violence. Do you know anything about this $2.5 million that's just sitting in the California budget and how it can be used to help the homeless?
Well, I don't know about describing it as just plain sitting. These propositions, these tax revenues are fairly recent. It's not like they've been sitting there for years. It's if we want to spend these dollars wisely, we have to know where they're going. And so it's obviously with any such huge enterprise, we're going to have to organize ourselves and spend this wisely instead of quickly.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I've suggested on this show many times that I take a page from Star Trek, and Michael, like this. The most basic way to solve the homeless problem, is to develop some type of self-governing culture where we can use tax dollars to help the homeless establish living and helping get themselves out of the problem that they're in, be it in condos, apartments, motels, hotels that are currently not being used. Help the homeless help themselves, provide them with vocational rehabilitation problems so they can learn, self-educate, learn a new trade with the eventual goal within a year or two to enter back into regular society. But I have no problem with my tax dollars contributing to the homeless for a year or two, just like what we would do for welfare or disability, but they have to be willing to help themselves. And if a homeless person, if their only goal is they just want to lay on the sidewalk or sit on the couch, eating potato chips, getting high, putting needles in their arms with no ambition whatsoever, then I have no desire to help them. But if they want to help themselves, I am willing to help them. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters. We've got special guest Daniel Brin, Democratic candidate for the 45th Assembly special election, and we'll talk about that after our next musical break, and we'll be right back.
Sliding on the upside of down. Let me tell you, baby, I have earned my craft. Lord, don't let me be misunderstood. Ain't got time to watch no grass grow or romancing with a Romeo. Here's the ticket to the rodeo. Lord, come on and love me like you could. Sometimes you need a piece of candy, a little bit of something good, a little bit of something good. See, I tried out your black book. Come on, baby, take a good look. Oh, the fish is jumping on the hook. Oh, don't think I want it 'cause I would. Don't say I ain't a lady. I'm a single mother, got my family. Sometimes you need a piece of candy, a little bit of something good, a little bit of something good. Something good. Something good. Show me your good side. I ain't asking for no free ride. Come on over to my side, and you'll be feeling like you should. Oh, don't say I ain't no lady. I'm a single mother, got a family. Sometimes you need that piece of candy, a little bit of something good. Oh, a little bit of something good. Yeah, a little bit of something good.
The folk rock sounds of Susan Scheller on WorkComp Matters. My name is Steve Appel. We're brought to you by A1 Law. If you want the #1 computer management system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guaranteed, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those concert, sports, theater tickets, sold out, front row, it don't matter. Give our buddy Brian a call, Santa Monica Tickets, 818-397-8587. We've got special guest Daniel Brin, a Democratic candidate for the Special Assembly 45th District election. But right now, we've got our first news story. He's my right-hand man. He keeps me in check and out of trouble about 90% of the time with the first news story of the night, Mr. Mike Zyma.
If you have a medical marijuana card, the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals says that you can't buy a gun. The court ruled 3-0 last Wednesday that a ban preventing medical marijuana cardholders from purchasing firearms is not a violation of the Second Amendment. There are 9 Western states under this appeal court's jurisdiction, including Nevada, where the case originated. A lawsuit was filed in 2011 by Nevada resident S. Rowan Wilson after she tried to purchase a gun for self-defense and was denied based on a federal ban on the sale of guns to users of illicit drugs. The court maintained that drug use, quote, raises the risk of irrational and unpredictable behavior with which gun use should not be associated, end quote. We at WorkComp Matters believe that this ruling won't be the last we see on the issue.
Yeah, if you have a marijuana medical card, you shouldn't have a gun, but you can drink as many bottles of alcohol as you want, and that's okay. Go ahead. It's not a problem. Daniel, 2 issues that we talk about on WorkComp Matters all the time are guns and medical marijuana. As a Democratic candidate for the 45th Assembly District, what's your take on guns and the legalization of marijuana?
Okay, well, I'm with the kids. I think sensible restrictions on gun purchases, large capacity magazines, hollow bullets or armor piercing bullets, and that sort of thing. Silencers. I'm all for regulations limiting those and. I also believe that we could do other things too. We could in California. I'm proud that we have we're one of the few states that allows family members and co-workers to go to a court and get a court order to take away guns using from somebody has mental issues.
I'm all in favor of that.
Right, and that could have helped in Florida. So there are background checks, longer waiting periods. If we have a huge domestic violence problem, I think domestic violence is the worst social threat to the safety of people across the country and in our district, and so people who abuse their spouses should not be allowed to have guns.
Most gun deaths occur between people that know each other.
Absolutely. I was a reporter in Chicago, and I covered many murders, many homicides, and most of them were cases in which a jealous spouse or an angry spouse just reached into the drawer and pulled out a gun and just killed the other person.
Do you think there should be a law, either federal or, well, you're running for state legislature, that says that if you do not have your gun on your person, it should be kept in a gun safe and not simply out in a dresser drawer where anybody can get at it? Or is that being too legislative?
No, I think that's absolutely reasonable. I think that's a great idea.
Mike, what do you think?
Well, my understanding is that those safes can be used very quickly by inputting a code and down comes the gun, but
or your thumbprint
could be, yeah. But when the bad guy's coming in through the threshold, I don't know.
So you don't want that strict a regulation, Robert? What about you?
Oh, man, I got to say, I sit here quietly, but I disagree with the majority of everything you're saying. But
It was
I know I'm
a
the only
question.
attorney on the panel, too.
It was a question. I wasn't
yeah,
saying
I know,
it.
but you said so much prior. Firstly, just generally, I believe silencers are already illegal, correct? It's also illegal to create them in your own home. And
There's a movement to legalize them.
Okay, but you're asking for more control where there's already regulation. So you don't need any more control. You don't want them to scale it back. Also, I believe the same thing is true for high-capacity magazines.
In California.
Yes, but I believe for, and also automatic weapons you mentioned earlier, those are also already illegal. I think what we really need in this country, if we're going to have an intellectual debate regarding guns, is for both sides to be educated in guns. It doesn't look like the left, respectfully, knows anything about firearms. And because of that, it's difficult to start a dialogue. How can you say that you want silencers illegal? They're already illegal. High-capacity magazines, already illegal. Automatic weapons, already illegal. There are so many issues that we need to confront. If we can't start on a basic dialogue with each other, understanding the same terms, how can we ever address the issue? And respectfully, regarding the new generation, I am from a younger generation than all of you, but slightly older than the Generation Z. Okay,
Correct.
So I'm rather tech savvy. I have younger siblings who are part of that generation, and a lot of family. That generation is a lot more conservative than I believe this panel is giving them credit for. I believe I actually saw an article on the news, was it Newsweek or something, that Generation Z is going to be the most conservative generation since the baby boomers, right? So this pendulum is swinging.
Doesn't mean they can't want gun reform.
Everyone wants reasonable gun reform, but no one wants the Second Amendment taken away, and that's exactly what Justice Stevens said this morning when Trump responded. And I'd be interested in Mr. Brin's opinion as to whether or not you are a support of the Second Amendment whatsoever. Because you've been in support of every type of regulation proposed, whether it's in someone's home or not. And I'm wondering, do you even believe in the Second Amendment?
All right, okay.
I'd be
very
happy to answer
good.
that question.
Daniel, are you in support of the Second Amendment?
Sure, I believe that the National Guard should be protected and should be adequately supplied and armed and funded by the federal government.
Do you think the Second Amendment should be changed in any way, fashion, or form?
It doesn't have to be changed because it's totally irrelevant to the discussion about individual ownership of firearms today.
You don't believe the Second Amendment extends to the individual. It only believes to National Guard, as you said. well-regulated militia is what you interpret.
If you look back to original intent, which is what Antonin Scalia professed to believe, you see that the debate. I just read a book on the subject, the Second Amendment, a biography by Michael Waldman. The purpose of the Second Amendment was to assuage the fears of states that were afraid of the new federal government, and they were afraid that of the new standing army. So they wanted to keep their militias. They understood that Congress would have control over it, but they wanted to be able to have their own standing armies in which they would appoint the officers. And that's what it was all about.
Robert has said in so many words, so many times, that the Second Amendment is there to protect the First Amendment. Plain and simple. I was talking with Mike earlier, and Mike, well, I think Mike agrees with me, but he can say so right now. I was telling Mike that, in my opinion, most gun owners keep under the radar and are silent. You can see all the TV advertisements, you can see all the people talking on the news, you can see all the social media, but we've got 315 million people in the United States. Little more than half of them are adult, a little less than half of them are in the working population, and we have approximately 300 million guns. That means the average gun owner has at least 3 guns.
I've heard 7 or 8.
Fair enough.
Because the majority of people don't actually have guns, so correct. It doubles to the other side.
In my opinion, most gun owners keep quiet. Most gun owners stay under the radar. I'm not going to say it's because they're afraid. I don't think they are. I think it's because they don't want it advertised that they have 3, 4, 5, or 7 guns. If you attempt to change one word of the Second Amendment, you are going to see such a backlash from the people that are gun owners and are quiet. It's going to very quickly change your perception of gun owners. Let's face it, folks, 99% of all gun owners are responsible. 99% of all gun owners keep quiet. They do their own thing. They work hard. They pay their taxes. They lead a responsible life. It's the less than 1% of gun owners, and even less than that, maybe 1/1000th of a gun owner that is going to go out there and do something stupid. Actually, I meant 1/1000th of a percent of the gun owners out there that'll do something stupid. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters. We'll be back with Daniel Brin, candidate for the 45th Assembly District, after our last musical break.
Well, you can't turn him into a company man. You can't turn him into a whore. And the boys upstairs just don't understand anymore. Well, the top brass don't like him talking so much, and he won't play what they say to play. And he don't want to change what don't need to change. And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. There goes the last human voice. And there goes the last DJ. Well, some folks say they're gonna hang him so high, 'cause you just can't do what he did. There's some things you just can't put in the minds of those kids. As we celebrate mediocrity, all the boys upstairs wanna see how much you'll pay for what you used to get for free. And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. goes the last DJ.
One of the world's most powerful radio voices. Just for the record, it's just my Mexican time.
Well, he got him a station down in Mexico, and sometimes it'll kinda come in, and I'll bust a move and remember how it was back then. And there goes the last DJ, who plays what he wants to play, and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. There goes the last human voice. And there goes the last DJ.
Tom Petty on Work Comp Matters. My name is Steve Appel. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want your no strings attached money back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law, used by more California workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet. Give me a call at 818-357-4120. And if you want your front row, hard to get, sold out concert, sports, theater tickets, give our buddy Brian a call, 310-395-8587. Special guest, Democratic candidate for the 45th Assembly, Daniel Brin, is a special guest in studio. We've got about 15 minutes. We've got a whole slew of topics that we haven't gotten to, so I'm just going to run these by really quickly, Daniel. Autonomous cars. Obviously, Arizona, someone died last week. Prior to that, a couple of months, everybody was saying, even my insurance agent, autonomous cars are going to be on the road within 1 or 2 years. I claimed BS. I said we are 5 to 10 years away from autonomous cars on the road, and here finally someone dies. What's your take on autonomous cars?
I agree with you completely. So, somebody in Arizona was stupid. Yeah, that's I don't know if it's true that they took off the car's automatic controls.
Actually, I'm sorry for interrupting. We had a news story, Mike. There's a news story right there, and which answers that question. And here it is. When Uber decided in 2016 to retire its fleet of self-driving Ford Fusion cars in favor of Volvo sport utility vehicles, it also chose to scale back on the safety sensors used to detect objects in the road. That decision resulted in self-driving vehicles with more blind spots. Driverless cars are supposed to avoid accidents with LiDAR, which uses laser light pulses to detect hazards on the road. When Uber scaled back to a single LiDAR on the Volvo, a blind zone developed all the way around the perimeter of the car that cannot fully detect pedestrians.
What were they thinking? My God.
Well, as we say on Work Comp Matters all the time, follow the money.
Right.
And I shouldn't be laughing.
You're absolutely right. It's a serious topic.
Let's see. Next, California, sanctuary state, Trump's wall, immigration. I know that immigration is a federal issue, but the California-Mexico border is right in California. We also recently have Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the United States suing California. We've got the mayor in Oakland who's protecting illegal alien criminals. I've said on this show many times before that if you are an illegal alien, but you've been here for years, you're paying your taxes, you're paying your bills, you're doing your best to become a good member of society, you should be taken on a case-by-case basis. But if you're an illegal alien and you have broken the law, they should kick your ass out of here. Daniel, what's your take?
Okay. So, yes, I generally agree with you on that as well. The violent offenders are already being kicked out, and they are not being protected under California's so-called sanctuary laws. The state of California, if you actually look at the laws, they're not breaking federal law. They're not contradicting federal laws directly. They're just taking the approach that we don't have to do more than what's minimum to let the federal agents do what they're required to do. So I think California is on good ground there, on a strong ground, and we'll see how it shapes up in the courts. But I think California is right to defend its most vulnerable. I won't use the word citizens, but residents who are being exploited. They are afraid to approach the police, to report crimes, to work with the police.
Because they're afraid of being deported if they do.
Exactly, exactly. And as you said, that the great majority of them are hardworking, tax-paying people who only want a better break in life. And to tell you the truth, the rest of the population, native-born population, is getting older and older and older, and we're going to need younger people in our workforce to generate the wealth and to help take care of us, if nothing else, when we get old. So we really, the whole idea behind these laws to keep people out, it is nonsensical. My ancestors, my grandparents came over from Europe when there weren't such laws. And then those laws were established because they thought there were too many strange talking foreigners in this country.
But then again,
we saw what happened in Europe.
But let's be real. At that time, they were giving away land.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, you
we're not giving away land. We're actually giving less to these people who are.
No, what I was saying is we wanted people to come to this country. We wanted people to establish and develop the land. That's not the case now. What was then is not now.
Correct, but there are certain values that we have as a country, in which we have that lady holding the lamp by in New York Harbor, and we shouldn't like turn her backside.
Yeah, which
to
was
the
a
rest
gift.
of the world.
Which was a gift by the French then, and look at how we feel about the French now. But that's not actually, California. That's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
So, are you for or against the wall in California at the Mexican and or the Canadian border?
It's a waste of money. There are other ways of doing it. I agree. We need a secure border. I don't think that this symbolic huge wall that is really the way to go.
Do you think that men and women are treated equally when it comes to sexual harassment? And I'm going to specifically bring up Assembly person Christina Garcia, who's currently on leave. It recently come out within the past couple of days that she says she keeps a keg of beer in her office, and isn't that the way business is always done? She's been accused of playing spin the bottle with her subordinates. And she's on leave. She did not resign as a Dan Dabinow,
Matt Dabinow.
Yeah, you're right.
Dababna.
Do you? I think all of us at this table can agree that sexual harassment, which is basically used as a power thing, is wrong. But my question to you is, do you think we treat it equally among men and women?
Well, okay, there are examples of women abusing their power in their workplace, and a lot of the problem is a matter of power as opposed to gender. But we can't deny it. There is a male problem in this country, and sometimes I wonder about our ability to adjust to different, at the proper speed to changing social norms. And I think we need to work at it hard. And I think there is a gender component to this.
I'm not sure if I'm reading him right, but it looks like Robert's chomping at the bit. Did you want to say anything or no?
No, I mean,
okay.
I definitely think that everyone should be protected at work, right? I'm an employment law, workers' comp discrimination attorney.
And this is one who doesn't have any women working for him. And
that's actually not true anymore.
You have a woman working for you now?
I have many women working for me. That was a while ago, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was temporary. We had somebody go back to school, but we had filled in where there was one woman, now there's two, but two different women.
Do you make them sign non-disclosure agreements?
No, there's nothing improper going on. It's an office, maybe if the coffee's a little low, they'll get there'll be a complaint or two in the box, right?
Okay,
That's the most we ever have a problem with at a regular office. But I'm just wondering if anyone actually seen sexual harassment around this table. Have anyone actually seen it at their own workplace? Because we all talk about it like it's so common, but I'm not sure anyone has ever actually done it or seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Well,
in my workplace.
Well, of course, I have a story.
But we have a male problem.
And the problem was mine. I've told this story on the show before, Daniel. I don't think I ever told you. Back many years ago, I was working for a corporate insurance company, and every 6 months, a female colleague of mine, would walk around and advertise that she had a cat adoption thing. And she would walk around she would decorate her cubicle, and then she would walk around asking if I would like to see her cats. And of course, 5 times, which would be 2.5 years, once every 6 months, I said no. And for whatever reason, that 6th time, I lost control of my senses. I was ignorant. I was stupid. She comes up to me and says, "Steve, would you like to see my cats?" And of course, out of my mouth comes, "No thanks. If you've seen one pussy, you've seen them all." Okay, Now, she did not go to human resources. However, 2 other women that were sitting in cubicles about 10 feet from me, and I didn't even know they were there, and I didn't get along with them, they went to HR and complained sexual harassment against me. I got pulled in within 48 hours. "Steve, did you say that?" And of course, I said yes. And they said, "Well, I'm sorry, we're going to have to put you on documentation." And in 2.5 years, I had never been put on documentation. "Okay, fine, put me on documentation. I get it. It will never happen again. It was stupid." Well, Steve, I hope you realize that when you're on documentation, you don't qualify for your 3% COLA raise until you're off documentation for another year. And of course, I hadn't gotten my raise for a year, so I had to wait 2.5 years for my COLA raise of 3%.
So, boss, basically around the table of the 4 of us, no one's ever sexually harassed anybody that we've admitted to or know of. And the most that has happened is you told an improper joke one time, years ago, and people who overheard it were offended. It doesn't look like we have a male problem. We have problems, and they're individual guys probably doing bad things. We have bad people doing bad things. But to think a male problem, isn't that cutting everybody with a broad sword?
Notice that there
knife?
aren't any women in this table here right now.
But it's only 4 people. That's a small sample size, don't you think? We have 4 people, and we invited you. To think that no one here has sexually harassed a woman, no one's seen it done, and all of a sudden...
I didn't say I never saw it done. I just said I qualified myself. I said not in my workplace.
Every woman, and I mean every single woman, has experienced sexual harassment at least once in their life, if not sexual assault or attempted rape.
And we have to make sure everybody is held equal in front of the law, that we have workplaces like yours where people are written up. But see what happened at your job? You made a joke, and immediately there's documentation, there's a written warning.
Well, I was working for a female-oriented company that had 70 to 75% women and was voted one of the top 5 places to work in the country for women.
All right, well, boss, I represent a lot of people, and let me tell you, that would happen at any company. I don't know if it's woman-owned, men-owned, it doesn't matter. If you make a joke like that, someone's offended, you're going to hear about it, right? The culture we're talking about, was the Hollywood culture with Mr. Weinstein. It's all going back to that. That's what we're really referring to, correct?
That has to do with power, and that has to do with sleep with me or you're never going to work again. Sleep with me or you're going to be fired.
But I think that's the culture we're trying to condemn when we're saying the male problem, right? Because we need to identify it. Not all men are the problem. The 4 men around this table aren't the problem, are they?
I find that considerably more men are accused of sexual harassment than women. Daniel, what do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think it's without having women here at the table, I don't think we're really it's really fair to say to minimize the and I think that's what you're doing. They minimize the experiences of women who are
not the women's experiences, but the amount of perpetrators that you say that you claim that we have a male problem.
I think it's a huge problem. Not all men, of course.
I agree.
Yes, it is. But don't you think that we should get to the identifying problem, not just say all men, because the majority of men will be offended. I know I'm offended if somebody lumps me in with some criminal. Right?
Robert, your points are well taken. I'm going to allow Daniel to finish up because, unfortunately, we are out of time. Daniel, you've heard what Robert has to say. Why don't you take a minute or 2 or 3 and finish up the show?
Okay. Well, talking about women, I mean, I was back in the early 80s and late 70s, I was an activist. I was a card-carrying member of the National Organization for Women. And I've always been a feminist, and their cause is my cause. I feel strongly about it. What do I bring to the table in this race for the 45th Assembly District? I've work with all elements of the community. I have several conservative Republicans, supporting my campaign because they know that my door will always be open to them.
Including me.
That's correct.
But I'm not. I consider myself a middle of the road Republican. Go ahead.
Right. I'm a union guy. I believe that regular working people should have the power to get together and negotiate the terms of their employment. I think that's a good thing. I think that's under attack. At the same time, I'm on the side of small businesses. I had a small business, a small Jewish community newspaper, our family newspaper, and I understand the struggles of working under oppressive regulations and high taxes but at the same time, these people are being crushed by enormous competitors, wealthy corporations that move into the neighborhoods and move into their jurisdictions and drive them out of business. So we need to do something. I don't know exactly what, but my door is open. I really want to know how we could help fix this.
And sometimes that's the most important thing, having a governmental rep whose door is open. I would love to hear more, but unfortunately, we are out of time. For my right-hand man, keeping me in trouble and keeping me out of trouble and in check.
It depends, right? It depends.
Yeah, Mike Zima, my protege, always outspoken, attorney Robert Ozeron. On the board, engineering the show, Scott Walton of Uncle Studio. My special guest, Democratic candidate for the 45th Assembly District, Daniel Brin. And if any other candidates want to come out and talk on the show, give me a call at 818-357-4120. For everybody, all the good people back at WorkComp Central who continue to support and approve of this project, including but not limited to Leaf File and Jake Paris, my name is Steve Appel. We'll see you again next week for another edition of WorkComp Matters.